Welcome in. This is the Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Farmers Insurance Open. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there, that's Joe Idoni. Joe, another Wednesday evening, another Power Hour. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Power Hour. I'm excited for it. I get fired up for the 8:15 spot on my calendar every Wednesday. So let's roll, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, busy, packed week. Wednesday. I mean, we were talking. I love Torrey Pines. I love
I
everything
know you
about it.
do.
This event is phenomenal. It always gets a great field, and we joke. A lot of people almost think this is kind of when the golf season starts. Golf is the only sport that has like 4 different opening days, but for some people, this is one of them.
I love that. Yeah, definitely. And this is your former backyard. So you are very familiar with the layouts of the course. So looking forward to getting a little insider knowledge from you over the next 45 minutes here.
Yeah, very, very familiar with both of these courses. We'll talk through that. Gentlemen, ladies, welcome to the chat. Joe is here. Joe, good to see you. Tim is here. DFS Tavern is here. Scott Stewart is here. Welcome in. Get your questions, comments, concerns, whatever you have in the chat. We'll go through as many as possible. And over the next hour, we're going to recap last week's American Express because my goodness, there were penny stocks that went to the moon. It was GameStop level stuff, Joe. It was unbelievable.
I like that analogy. Yeah. So who's the GameStop of the week this week? I'm sure we'll address it. But last week, we talked about it kind of lending itself to long shots. Now, Siwoo and Patrick Cantley weren't that, but there were plenty of guys there that crept inside the top 10 who were very cheap on Jock Market last week and made you quite a bit of return on your money. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll run some big losers, some big gainers across the bottom of the screen over the next hour. And then as we get closer to the lock, so the IPO closing, which is going to happen around 9 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to let Joe do his thing. We're going to let him rock and roll, and we will catch up with him after IPO closes to see what types of shares that he ends up with. But for now, let me pull up last week's American Express here, Joe. And my goodness, talk about some
big winner.
Yeah, Michael Thompson, technically the big winner here, I guess, if you want to go by a ROI here. So he closed IPO at $2.41. He returned a final payout of $14 a share, so $11.59 of profit. Doug Gim also profited over $10 per share. You mentioned Siwoo Kim, Cameron Davis, Patrick Cantlay. They were some of the big movers of the week last week.
Yeah, sure. And it's interesting because even someone like Cantlay, as well as last week and phenomenal course record Sunday, stormed up the leaderboard, returned you all kind of money. It's interesting, like the way Jock Market works, and you could have made more money on shares of Michael Thompson last week. So it's just kind of funny. And I'm really starting to kind of hone in on strategy and adjust and tinker with a little bit. Thinking some of these guys in this $4-ish range, maybe the way to go, because they all of a sudden top 10 or even top 5 an event, and you're pulling in like 600% ROI or something nuts.
I am firmly in the camp that these $1, $2, $3, $4 prices at the close of IPO, this is where the money's made, because you don't have to be so sharp. As much as I want to get Patrick Cantlay, who closed at $10 in IPO last week, and he paid out $20 a share, so that's all good. You don't have to be as exact with these guys. So I have this sorted by ROI, and look at the IPO prices for these guys. The top 20 guys, 25 guys in IPO, or I'm sorry, in ROI, 2 of them were over $5. I mean, it's just, this is where knowing all the golfers in the field, knowing the ones that are trending in the right direction, this is where I think there's a lot of money to be made.
Absolutely. Yeah, agree. And I'm starting to see that as well. It's finding the guys. Now there's obviously a little bit more, it goes both ways, right? There's a little bit more risk in there because these guys, your results are much more variable. They could all easily miss the cut, but then again, you're not paying as much per share. Whereas Patrick Cantlay is probably a safer pick because you know he's going to play well. You know the caliber of player that he is, and he always brings it, particularly on the weekends. But this is kind of, we're starting to see a pattern here in where the money is really made. And I agree. It's that $4 or $5 range, man.
And looking at the guys who did close IPO as the most expensive golfers last week. So we mentioned Patrick Cantlay. He was the most expensive at time of close. He doubled your money. He went from $10 to $20. Of course, we got a couple of miscuts from Scotty Scheffler, Russell Henley, Patrick Reed. That goes a long way. But, even looking at Tony Finau, and this is a format that, let's be real, Joe, it's hard to put an outright bet on Tony Finau. It's really hard to do that, knowing he hasn't won a golf tournament since 2016. Someone should tell him the Puerto Rico Open curse is over, right? Tony, you can go win. You can go win one of these, buddy. It's over. But in this format, still, even with what many would argue was a disappointing failure of a Sunday, returns you $7.45 per share. So this is a really good format for a lot of guys who don't end up winning golf tournaments.
Correct. Guys like Finau, guys like Hideki, guys that, are going to perform well and consistently top 10 and make money on the PGA Tour, are going to make you some money on the jock market. Like you said, it's not all reliant on getting that victory, but it's just something, man. It's just, I didn't have any bets or shares of Finau last week, but I find myself rooting for him to kind of get over this hump. And it just seems like polar opposites when I watched him play last week and a guy like Patrick Cantlay play last week, in terms of the level of focus that they seem to have, the level of intent on every single shot, whether it's a 3-foot putt or a pitch around the green or a drive. They just seem like different players. And I want to see Tony kind of have that killer instincts, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and there is a question here in the chat that I actually do think is pretty interesting, because I showed the guys at the top and I showed the guys at the bottom who made a lot of money. And Guy says, yeah, but how many of the cheaper golfers didn't make the cut and you got $1 a share? Well, here's the bottom of the pool. So when these cheaper guys do miss the cut, you're not losing as much, right? Nelson Ledesma, actually, I guess he did make the cut. So here, Fabian Gomez, $1.45 in IPO, finishes at $1, loses you 45 cents a share, not necessarily breaking the bank by most standards. And then you're getting the Rain Gibson, who goes from 126 to 360. So obviously these guys are going to miss the cut, but this is look at this. There are guys down here who are making the cut and doing some more and returning you money. So I did want to be able to show the opposite side of that, Joe. And before we jump into this week, and before we jump into strategy for this week, I want to talk a couple of strategy questions that we've gotten over the course of the last week or so. Let's get everybody on the same page about how the scoring, how this all works to determine what the final share price is for these golfers. What goes into that?
Okay, so I kind of wanted to clear this up, and I actually got an email from Dave over at Jock Market that made this sort of crystal clear for me. So while it is considered fantasy scoring, it is not fantasy scoring in the sense of DraftKings per se that you would normally consider, but with birdies and eagles. More or less, it's finishing position, right? So the where it gets a little bit different is when you have ties. So, for instance, think about it this way. Your top two guys finished in the tournament. Say there is a tie from 3 to 7th place. You have 5 guys there, all at -6. The tiebreaker, which I found was very interesting, actually comes down to the Jock Market pre-rank. You can see each player's pre-rank, it predetermined before the IPO. As soon as you click their name, you see where they're at. But that's going to determine the payout in the finishing position. So in this instance, you've got 5 guys tied for 3rd. Let's say one of them is Rory McIlroy, who has a good pre-rank. Another one, say, is Tom Lewis, who I'm looking down here and is like 106. Rory is going to take that 3rd place payout, which is $18 a share. Tom Lewis, even though he finished with the exact same score as Rory McIlroy, is going to take $13 per share, a full $5 less than Rory because of that 5th place tie. So when you are kind of looking at these guys, it's definitely an important thing to consider the pre-rank, because in so many instances, there's 4, 5, 6 guys that end up tied with the same score, and that's how that tiebreaker is going to be broken. That's how your payouts are going to be determined, and that could be the difference between a profit and a loss on the week.
Yeah, golf has so many ties that you really should be considering this, especially if they tie near the top where those share prices are bigger jumps. You're talking about
Mhm.
some real differences. And then there was one other question, and I got this same question during my live chat this afternoon. And I want to make sure I find it here. Scott Stewart says, "Can you explain the Jock bots?" So yeah, I can do my best here. So the Jock bots are essentially going out and bidding. So you'll see in terms of the activity in the jock market, you'll see these jock bots bidding up golfers, which at first I think always freaks people out. They're like, "Oh my god, what is going on? A bot is bidding." I'm a little bit concerned about this. And the way that I understand this is obviously these markets are getting more and more liquid, and by that I mean more and more people are playing. There's more bidding happening. There's more buys. There's more sells as the tournament goes on. So we need the market to be very, very liquid. We want that as players, and of course, Jock Market wants that as well. So what these bots do is they are just nudging these golfers closer to their fair value pricing. So if, Rory McIlroy is, his fair value finish is 10.5, there is a price associated with that. The jock bots help to move those numbers towards the fair value. But here's the big key. Last I checked and last I heard, these jock bots run at a loss of like 20%. So they are, yes, they are making sure that we're getting closer to fair value, but there is still plenty of juice to be squeezed out of essentially all of these golfers. Because you imagine there's got to be a lot of bids for 144 golfers or however many are in the field that week, trying to get them all to fair value. So the jock bots are not nearly as malicious as I think people want to think. They're there to keep the game liquid, keep the game moving in the right direction. I would say, Joe, I don't know what we could rename them, but I think bot has a negative connotation, which I think is why it freaks people out.
That's true. I think you may be spot on with that, but I think ultimately, just don't worry about it. Just play your game, buy your players, and they're not going to make that much of a difference. They are there to ensure the fairness of everyone playing, and ultimately, the players, yourselves and myself, and anyone who's involved in this market is going to ultimately determine the price of each player.
And it reduces jock market's risk, right? I mean, imagine 144 golfers and they're guaranteed payouts. Like, that's scary stuff. I don't know if I would necessarily want to.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like, even an hour ago, I was just looking through, and we're an hour and a half away from IPO close, and there were some guys that were all over the place, like guys way down the list. Like Scotty Scheffler was like almost all the way at the bottom, still at $1 a share. So they can't allow that to happen at close, where someone comes in and buys 200 shares of Scotty Scheffler for $1. You know what I mean? So it's just to ensure fairness in the game. And ultimately, I think that if you choose wisely with the players that you target, this is still something that can be extremely lucrative and profitable for you, as well as very fun.
If you have not deposited yet, what are you waiting for? Now's the time. Use Power 20. That'll get you $20. And Joe, let's turn our attention to this week's market. I'm going to reveal the current pricing for the very first time. And here we go. It is Adam Scott leading the way. $9.50. I knew there was an Aussie narrative this week, Joe. I was not expecting to see Adam Scott atop our first look at the jock market for this week. That is very interesting.
Well, the Aussie narrative is real. I'm kind of buying into it myself. There's plenty of them in the field this week, and all of whom I think are right around that 40, 50, 60 to 1 mark. So you can take your pick. I have no problem with Adam Scott. I highly doubt that he will finish within the top 4 or 5 golfers in terms of price.
I would be worried about the putter, and we're talking about Torrey Pines, these Poana greens, and if you've never putted on Poana, first of all, Lucky you. Second of all, I mean, these things turn into, now it's a little bit better now because players can kind of tamp down the spike marks and the imperfections in the greens, but these greens literally grow throughout the day. They bud. They create these little buds, and it's almost like you're going to see that worm cam on CBS this weekend where it's real low to the ground, and you're going to see the ball bouncing all over the place, and it's really mental, Joe. A lot of it is like I hit a good putt and I missed it because it got knocked offline. It can make poor putters lose their freaking minds out there.
Yeah, good putter out there as well. I think that we see as many 5-10 foot putts missed here as just about anywhere.
That's right. I don't know if we have Joe or not, but he's.
And this place is challenging. You got me now?
I got you now. We got you loud and clear.
Okay, cool. What I was saying is this golf course is extremely difficult. So not only is it 7,700 yards from those back tees, but you've got fairly small greens for a course of that length. So I think short game and putting is going to be a pivotal factor this week. That's really what I'm looking to target.
Yeah, and missing the fairway is so penal, right? I mean, some places you're going to just have to gouge it out. You're going to get some really difficult lies, and you're going to miss a lot of greens. And in turn, your short game is going to have to be sharp. That includes both around the green, and it includes putting as well. One thing I want to mention before I forget about this, because we do have two courses this week, and the North course, it's actually much more difficult than it used to be. It used to be just a cupcake. It's now about 2.5 shots easier, or at least it played that way last year. And I'm wondering how that affects kind of some jock market strategy. Like, should I be buying up North course guys, watching them go out there, try to shoot something low, and then maybe cutting bait after round one? Is that a thing?
That's probably a very fair strategy. I know that that's a very solid look that a lot of people are going to in terms of showdown this week, but I wanted to kind of ask you on this, and I put out a poll on Twitter earlier, was interested. It's about 50-50 in terms of the response, but obviously the weather looks to be getting pretty gnarly on Friday, right? Much more calm and peaceful and better for scoring on Thursday. So would you, in the bad weather, Rick, 20-mile-an-hour winds, would you prefer to play the more difficult golf course, or would you prefer to play the easier golf course in the harder conditions?
So I think the right answer is that it's going to depend for every golfer. I think some guys are going to like the safety of the easier course in harder conditions because they know, hey, they might not be getting killed as much as everybody else. But I also think some guys want absolutely pristine conditions on the easiest course so that they can go super low. So unfortunately, I think each guy is going to take the challenge differently. I know for me, I would prefer it where it would be, I want the easiest course on the easiest day and just see if I can go out and shoot something really, really crazy out there. But I think that some guys are going to thrive in it and some guys are going to absolutely hate it. And it's going to be hard to kind of quantify. Looking at the market for a market update here. So not only is Adam Scott the most expensive golfer at the moment, Harris English at 825, and then John Rahm at 821. Let's talk about some of the guys who probably rank out highly here. So I'm talking about the Rahms, the Xanders, and the Rory McIlroys of the world. I think it's fair to say, are those guys in a tier of their own, those three, before we jump down to like Finau, English, Hideki type players?
I think definitely, just because the lack of flaws in all of their games, they're all suited very well here. The one thing you can say about Xander is he hasn't played well here in the past. I think missed 4 out of 5 cuts. But this week's a little bit different, right? He's not playing the host to all of his friends from out of town on the Wednesday night party and have to entertain people and dish out tickets. A little bit different scenario for him, but they all have extremely good short games. They're all good putters. They're all just, they're three. I was a little bit concerned about John Rahm coming into this week. There seemed to be a lot of outside factors, whether it be the club change, the withdrawal, the injury. After watching his presser earlier today, I think I mentioned to you, I'm a lot less concerned. It seemed like a very minor injury. I think that he's very comfortable here, and he said so. And this is a spot that he circles on his calendar every year. I would expect him to play very well here and probably end up the highest priced player on the field.
Wow. Okay. I'm So torn on Xander at the moment. I just see the talent, and I'm stunned that there's any course in the world that he could be, struggling at, especially one that he's played so often. But Torrey is a course history play, so we'll see on that. Rory McIlroy to me is he's just endlessly fascinating. He did not have the 2020 that he wanted. And he still goes out and he gets a T5 at the Masters and he returns you a 63% ROI after closing at $8.60, which actually, looking back at some of the prices, kind of shocking that the guy going for the Cruise Slam closed IPO at $8.60. I'm surprised by that. But he played in Dubai last week, Joe, and for two of those rounds, he shot the lowest round of the day. He was phenomenal on Thursday. He was phenomenal on Saturday. Didn't play as well the other 2 days, which I just think is a microcosm of what we've seen from Rory, which is inconsistencies. And I wonder if there is an opportunity to either buy him low if he starts slow, maybe sell him high if he starts fast, because it's been a long time since Rory's put 4 rounds together.
Yeah, and I feel really good about where Rory's at mentally, where his game is at. I think he said himself that he feels much sharper now than he did 3 months ago. I feel like he's got a big year ahead of him. I worry a little bit. We haven't seen guys with a great track record of going all the way over to Dubai and then hopping on a jet and coming back here. But these guys are fairly used to it, right? It's a little bit of a longer flight, but they're flying all over the country every week. Not too concerned about it. I've seen some people compare this course to Bay Hill a little bit and just looking at comparative winners, whether it be Leishman or Jason Day or Justin Rose and these guys who have played well at both places. Obviously, Rory's won at Bay Hill very recently. Just a great player, man. I want to root for him. I'd be interested to see what his number is creeping at near close because I think I'm going to be interested. Another guy I wanted to ask you about, though, real quickly, Rick. Sure. That I'm always fascinated in. He seems to be very under-owned. His odds are a bit higher than usual this week, and he's like 20th on the board right now, and it's Brooks Koepka. What do we do with Brooks?
Yeah, so Brooks, my goodness. So I actually, for the first time in a long time, fired an outright on Brooks this week.
Yes, me too. Love it, baby.
That is something I have not done in a really long time. And the number got too long. I got it, I think, at 35 or 36. And to me, the more difficult golf course we get, the better for Brooks. The fact that, he had split up with Claude Harmon previously, but we just got news of it like this week. So I feel like this is like, the first public week of the breakup. He has to go out and prove to everybody that he can handle this. And I liked him from an outright sense because I think his ends are huge, right? A lot of missed cut equity and a lot of win equity, and not so much in the middle. So at least for jock market purposes, he does have equity to get to that $25 a share mark. So I think there's a lot of upside in it. I do not back Brooks often. I'm backing him this week, and I'm even just trying to look for what he is right now. He's $2.34 right now. Obviously won't close there, but think about that.
Yeah, he's gone up a little bit if you refresh it, up to like $5.14 now I'm seeing, but that's still 20th down the list, which is a lot further down the list than he is on any odds board or DraftKings sort of pricing list. So there seems to be quite a bit of value at this moment, but maybe people are just waiting to capitalize at the end.
I love it. We talk about course history so much, and we are probably 20 minutes out from close. So we are going to get rocking and rolling here in a sprint, I imagine, here in the next couple of minutes. But there are some of these course history buffs, Joe, whether it's a Jason Day, who's won here twice, whether it's a Brandt Snedeker, whether it is, you can even throw Leishman in there, Charles Howell III. Are there any course horses that are really calling your name?
Not so much. I don't love Leishman this week. I feel like he's going to be a little bit too popular. I'm more looking for guys that I've seen with a decent, a top 5, top 10 finish in the past couple of years, but no one who's really come out and won. I don't know what to do with Jason Day. I never know what to do with Jason Day, so I'm not going to play him this week. Obviously, Rahm has a ton of upside where he's got good vibes here, the place where he got that initial first win, but he's going to be the highest priced guy on the board. So I'm looking at a couple guys. that came a little further down the list. I love Cam Smith this week, who has a top 10 here and kind of has that Australian, player narrative. And then a guy that I'm really high on this week, I'm not sure where he's priced at right now, is Taylor Gooch. Coming into this event playing really well. His short game is tight right now. And that's what I'm looking to sort of target this week in terms of guys who can get up and down from anywhere, because that's what we saw Leishman do last year. He sprayed it all over the yard off the tee, and he got up and down and made 8-foot putts on everything. So Taylor Gooch is a guy you can see to do that. Now with Gooch, you're in for the roller coaster. There's going to be a lot of birdies. There's going to be double bogeys, and you got to be ready for it. So he may be a guy that you can capitalize on selling after a good birdie run and collecting some profits there, or waiting until you see him maybe struggle a little bit on that south course and know that he's a guy that can really get hot and rip some off in a bunches when he gets to that north track.
He has participated in 6 different cash markets. He has returned over 230% in 2 of them, which is kind of wild. And then last week at the American Express, he closed at $4.99. He finished T21, so he was certainly a positive player last week. Looking at a bit of value, I'm scrolling down here, a couple of names that are very familiar in terms of household names. Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, both sitting in the mid $4 range right now. Joe, if I made you buy 50 shares of one of these guys.
Oh, geez. Don't make me do that. So I would take Ricky if I had to pick one of those two. I still don't love him this week, but I saw some signs, I thought, of a little bit of resurgence, and just haven't seen that from Jordan yet. I worry what's going on in his head. We've seen the struggles with him on the range and regripping, and just doesn't seem to be playing golf anymore. He seems to be playing golf swing is something that he's trying to figure out that swing and not just going out there and scoring like he did when he was in his heyday. But that said, I still have concerns about Ricky. There are some guys there, even Siwoo and Cam Smith, that I see right next to them that I like both of those guys a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I'd even go back to almost Sam Burns before I played Ricky Fowler.
Good rebound candidate for Burns, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he shot a 66 on Friday last week. He was excellent. The first round on Thursday was his first round in like 2.5 months. He played horribly. We have Max Homa, we have Francesco Molinari, and we have Charlie Hoffman, who was trending in the right direction before his WD last week, down all below $4. Molinari had a top 10 last week. Are we going to start to see a resurgence of Molinari, and are we running out of chances to get him under like $5?
We may be, and I hope we can see some resurgence for him. I was really perplexed at what went on with his season last year. I know that he moved the family out there to California. I still didn't understand why he wasn't playing more. I think that I heard rumors there was a COVID situation within the family. I don't know the full details, but it's great to see him back. It was great to see him play well last week. And I like Francesco Molinari on courses where making par matters, because this guy seems to almost easily make pars when it's a course where it's going to require him to go out there and make a bunch of threes and birdies and circle up the card. Don't love him quite as much, but great to see his game back, and certainly has some upside at his current value and positioning in relation to the other guys in the field if he can, start to get the wheels turning again.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, par is a good score often at Torrey Pines. Let's be real there. Looking at some of the guys down in the lower 3s or even the upper 2s, there's a couple of names that jump off to me. So Harold Varner III, first of all, is a guy we have not seen since Mayakoba. We did this exercise for CBS Sports the other day where we were trying to pick guys who are currently outside the top 100 in the world who might finish inside the top, call it 30, just like a guy to potentially move up. And HV3 was my pick. And, I think when we did it at the time, he was like 112 in the world. I don't know what he is now, but he has the skill set, right? The tee to green stuff, the ball striking, that is everything we look for on a weekly basis. Hasn't been able to break through yet. I wonder if he does, if he finally gets a win somewhere, if that kind of changes the trajectory of HV3. So I don't know if it's this week, Joe, but I think longer term, this is the skill set we want. This is the guy. We just got to see it all 4 rounds.
Definitely. We got to see him close on a Sunday. He kind of, I sense a little bit of those Finau vibes with him, where maybe he's just like so nice and happy-go-lucky that he can't get himself to that level of intensity and focus that is required. I hope that's not the case. Love Harold. But some other guys down in this area, right above him there, I really like Luke List this week. I made some good money back on Luke last week and played pretty well. I know that he has a decent track record out here in California. He plays these longer courses, seem to be a good fit for him. And he plays really long, challenging par threes really well. His par three scoring on like over 200-yard par threes is pretty shocking. You wouldn't think it was that good, but guys like that I feel like have upside of top 15 that you can get in this $3 range are really positions we should look to target. And Lanto's right there too. I mean, we love Lanto. He's kind of been forgotten about this week. I was shocked to see him at like 150 to 1. He has not been playing that poorly. He just hasn't been making enough birdies, but he has the game to win. And what I mean about that is you look at the guys who've won the last 2 weeks. You've got Kevin Na and in Siwoo, right? Siwoo is a good putter. Kevin Na is a good putter, and they can get hot. Lanto Griffin is a great putter. So he has sort of what's within him. He's great around the greens, that if he can get something going, and we've seen it, you can play great and not win. You've got to shoot 64, 66s on Sunday in order to take this home. Maybe a little bit tougher this week, but I feel like he has that within him to do so and present some value this week. We've seen him much higher the last couple.
Yeah, I mean, you shoot 3 under every day, you are probably inside the top 12, 13, 14, something like that. That's going to be just fine. I am basically all in on Kramer Hickok at this point. You know, what he has done. So just to look at the results, 8th, 58th, so he makes the cut. That's fine. 19th and 21st in the last 2 weeks. At Sony, wow, he was 5th in strokes gained off the tee in that field. Last week, he was 1st. The driver is working, and I would argue being exact and long off the tee is more important here than it is at both YLI and PGA West. So, like, I think that skill set that he's got rocking and rolling is really great. If he goes out and gets you another top 20, he's paying off in a big way. I mean, he closed at $3.02 last week. He's currently at $2.99. He got you 99% ROI. He's someone that I'm really targeting down here. And then, I mean, there's Doug Gim had a great week last week. Russell Knox is perfect for the jock market because he might miss the cut, whatever, but he's got legit top 15, top 10 upside.
Yeah, I had some solid like 27 shares of Knox last week that paid off. But you go back to Hickok. I mean, there's a certain thing when you have a level of confidence with the driver, when you hit it far enough and you know you're going to stripe fairways, that trickles down into other parts of your games, and it doesn't always last. You're on a little run with the driver. We all know how it works. Yeah. They change equipment, but he's on a run right now. And as you showed with his ROI, he's basically printing money if you take some shares of him.
And the thing is, like, at most courses, being in the fairway sets up so much else, right? Like if you're able to play out of the fairway, especially at Torrey Pines, because hitting the green out of the rough is diabolical. And then you get on a little side slope and you have this awkward pitch shot, and it just compounds your errors and your opportunities if you are missing the fairway. So if he's just striping it, I really like that. I will answer to this Brady Jackson question here. Any guys in the $1 and $2 range? So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom here, Joe, and I'll go to.
I'm doing that as well.
All right, so I'm pulling it up here on our tool, and the mid $1 is pretty ugly. I'm not sure there's anybody here I'd be super thrilled about. A lot of them are short hitters, guys that I wouldn't be particularly thrilled about rostering. Rain Gibson, who had a good week last week, is probably the only one. So I'm just going to go to the next. Let me go to the next one here. Okay, so here's the bottom of the $2. So sub 2 range. You've got Andy Ogletree. You've got Hank Lebioda. He makes a lot of birdies. Even Robert Streb, we've seen him pay off quite a bit at the RSM Classic when he won that. I certainly don't expect him to win this, but I think he's had a couple of top 20 finishes here as well. So anybody else sub, call it $2, that's moving the needle for you?
I don't know about sub 2, but there's a couple of guys in the mid 2s that I can see. One guy that is kind of around there that I have a little in really have any stats to back it up is Tom Lewis. I just feel like we've seen him perform in some of these bigger WGC fields. I feel like he has a little upside there to potentially top 20. But sitting at $2.50 right now is a former Ryder Cup player, a former President's Cup guy, and a former winner here. He's won big events, and it's Brandt Snedeker. I don't really know what to do with Brandt because he hasn't been playing great. But you want to talk about a guy with potentially top 5 upside if his game's on, going back to a place that he's a little familiar. It's a good price on Brandt. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time that there's a price for everybody, and Brandt's been in the midst of a pretty sour stretch of golf. But if anything can rekindle it, maybe it's the vibes at Torrey Pines. Joe, looking at your card for this week, because we're gonna have you, get into some of the guys after you go through this, because we are definitely within 10 minutes of this IPO closing. So you're going to want to start getting those bids in. We're going to start giving Joe a little bit of runway to get after it, but give us an idea, some of the types of golfers, what you're looking to accomplish, maybe how many guys you might end up targeting here.
So the type of player that I'm targeting this week is around the green short game specialist. I'm going back to the Leishman thing of guys, especially if the weather cranks up, but guys that can get up and down from anywhere. So guys that I bet this week are guys that can do that. I took Patrick Reed. I like Brooks Koepka around the greens. I like Cameron Smith around the greens. I bet Cam Davis, but I just have this feeling that his price is going to be a little bit too popular here for me to play him, judging by kind of where I saw him at about 5 minutes ago. But that's the type of guy that I'm targeting, around the green guys and guys that have it within them to win tournaments, because that $25 a share is a big difference from fifth place. That's $15 a share. I still haven't quite cracked the code getting a guy that comes out and finishes and pays out $25 a share. But I feel like there's some guys here. I'm looking at Reed. I'm looking at Koepka. Sungjae Im is really tight around the greens too with his short game. He's a great chipper and pitcher of the ball. God, I was on him last week, and he was a roller coaster with those balls in the water. So I never quite know what to do with Sungjae. But that's who I'm kind of looking to target this week in terms of skill set for a player.
Do you have an idea of how many guys you think you'll? I'm trying to think back to last week. Would you get 8 or
last
10
week?
or
I
11?
had like 8 guys. A couple of them were just kind of placeholders with one share. So
that's
I'm try to narrow that down a little bit this week. I've got 7 guys in my orders now, but they're all for one share. So I haven't done the buying on them yet. But I'm going to try to stick and get the bulk of my shares in 5 players.
Okay, I love it. You mentioned Sungjae. He is, by my account, at $5.55. He is right above Ryan Palmer and Will Zalatoris, 2 golfers that I actually like quite a bit this week. Matthew Wolff is $5.70, and he's right below Cam Davis, which, if you would have said that 3 weeks ago, could you imagine Cam Davis, even at 6 minutes or so to go of IPO closing, is outpacing Matthew Wolff? That's a pretty meteoric rise, if you ask me.
Outpacing Brooks, outpacing Jason Day, outpacing last year's champion. So he is a meteoric rise. I think he's been making some people some money. So he's very popular this week. He's a great young player and awesome to watch play. I love the aggressiveness of which he plays the game of golf. But sitting, he's $6 a share now. That's going to be tough. And I just feel like a letdown is coming, but I could be very wrong. But there are some guys right under him that I think, are long-term better players with, more decorated histories, and you can rely on a little bit more at this point.
So just to put that into perspective, because I'm glad you brought this up. So Cameron Davis currently at $6.05. His fair value has already been surpassed, $5.83. So if you were looking, for $5.83, or actually $6.05, which is what he is right now, where does he need to finish in terms of paying for himself? Well, it's basically 27th. 27th would pay out $6.17. Anything below that, he would actually lose money per share. So if you think Cameron Davis can finish inside the top 27, you're a buyer at $6.05. If you think he can finish inside the top 18, you're a buyer at $8, which is really, Joe, the work that you put in and we all put in kind of leading up to this close is to identify fair value on all these guys and then try to execute it when things get hot.
Exactly right. Yeah. So he's just a little high priced right now. Now there are some guys that just recently passed him up, like Wolf just jumped him. Reed is up there as well. So things are kind of heating up and guys are moving all over the place as we get into the final 5 minutes here.
All right, Joe, let's do it. I think it's
all
time.
Right, I'm going to step away or not step away. I'm just going to reshift my focus here a little bit. You take us home for the closing couple minutes here.
Yeah, Joe is going to focus on the jock market. He's going to get his bids in. He's going to be battling you guys in the chat. So if there is anybody you'd like me to shout out so we can drive up the price on Joe, let me know. I'm happy to do that. Make him pay for these golfers. And we are going to keep an eye on this market, and I'm going to try to walk you through what is currently going on. So I'm going to rely on this retool, our tool that we have here for the jock market. And I'm going to remind you that this market is going to close before 9 o'clock. I think last time we had closed at 8:58 or something like that. So you're going to want to start getting those bids in right now. And it's Jon Rahm leading the way at $10. So essentially at $10, what you're betting on for Jon Rahm is that he is going to finish 11th or better. He would break even if he finishes 12th. But anything 11th or better will increase the value of those shares. He's currently $10. Moving down, Adam Scott, since we got on the show, has been stuck at $9.50. So he got bid up very early over the course of this jock market, not so much now. It'll be interesting to see if that number does continue to go up because he is currently, again, in terms of his fair value, would need to finish 12th or better. 13th would be a break-even proposition for Adam Scott at $9.50. I'm starting to see some potential value further down the list. We brought up Sungjae Im. Sungjae Im at $5.55. What would he need to finish for him to be able to pay out a profit? Well, right now, based on his current price, it would be 30th. So if you think Sungjae Im can finish inside the top 30, the top 25, you're willing to probably go up to at least $6.50, maybe $7 if you think that he has a top 25 in there or a top 20 in his bag for this week. So Sungjae Im is certainly a player. And then I don't think we've spent one single second talking about Patrick Reed, who is currently at $7.95. If you talk about streaky golfers, if you talk about golfers that get up for big time events, look no further than one Patrick Reed, $7.95. Essentially, that bet that you're making is that he is going to finish better than 18th place. That's the bet you're making at that current price of $7.95. We are probably moments away from this IPO closing. We are right up against it. I'm keeping a close eye on the jock market. I don't see Jon Rahm moving at all. Joe looks like he's actually quite relaxed. He seems to like things seem to be going swimmingly for
Adam
Joe.
Scott. I'm still shocked that Adam Scott is third on the board here, which is still blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it is crazy. We are now at the point where this IPO is going to close at any moment. And Jon Rahm, I'm still seeing at $10. I'm still seeing Adam Scott at $9.50. Rory McIlroy did crack through the $9 mark. I have him at $9.32. Hideki Matsuyama and Harris English both at $8.25, with Tony Finau and Patrick Reed trying to break through that $8 spot. Joe actually predicted earlier Xander Schauffele would be the highest and most expensive golfer in this jock market. $7 is what I have, Matt, right now. So if you think that Xander can shake off that course history and all those woes that he has had at Torrey Pines, there is a ton of juice to be squeezed out of his number at $7. He's one of the shortest, one of the favorites to win this event. And essentially by a $7 closing price, you would only need him to finish inside the top 21.
I just missed one. We just closed, and
All
it
right.
happened right as I was making a bid on Sung JM that I just missed out on.
We
We're
are
officially closed.
closed. Okay, so I'm gonna let our dashboard refresh here. But Joe, just give me an idea the action that you saw down the stretch there.
So it was quite it heated up quite a bit down the stretch. I lost a lot of guys at the very end. I gained some guys at the very end. I one of the guys that you spoke about was shocked at his price and got in on Xander Schauffele. So I do have 40 strong shares of Xander, which is about the most that I've ever had on a single player. So I'm hoping that my man plays well this week, shows up. But I honestly really do like his chances this week. I like the fact that there's a little bit less pressure on him. I think the course sets up great. The familiarity with the area and the region, coupled with the fact that his short game is incredible. Plus, he got like, it's weird. Like, we're all human, right? There's this looming cloud over every human being on the planet right now of COVID. And like, are you going to get it? There's something too, I feel like, and I haven't had it, but just getting through that and getting over with it and now being able to reshift after kind of shaking off a little bit of rust at the Century, getting back to work and practice, frees him up a little bit this week, coupled with the other things. I think that he's going to play well and be a factor down the stretch.
Well, I will tell you, just on the surface, through my first initial glance at some of these prices here, Xander has a lot of potential value here. So not only is his fair value $10.72, and he closed at $7, but I'm just kind of looking at what he would need to do. So at
He
$7,
actually closed a little higher than
oh,
$7.
what did he close at? Let me go.
I got him at $9.90 a share.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
So
I
it
must
may
be behind here.
the retool may be lagging just a slight bit there,
right,
but
let me give it a hard refresh real quick. I was going to say that is, yeah.
I still think that's a very fair number. I had a target of him on $10.30, so I came in just under that, which I'm happy with. And basically, this means he has to finish like in the top 13 this week to pay it back, and I feel like it's a pretty good odds.
Okay, so that's where I was going with this. So, all right, now I'm up to date here. So Xander at $9.90. So that is essentially asking him to finish inside the top 12. Well, I will tell you, that's very close. His top 10 number is plus 150. So you're asking him to finish inside the top 12. That is probably very close to even money. I think I like that a lot, Joe.
And I'm a little more bullish on him. So I had him the second player in the field, a little bit above Rory. So I'm a little bit more bullish, I think, than most. But I like my chances with Xander this week. I feel good about that.
John Rahm ended up closing at $11.50. So to put that into perspective, he will break even by finishing ninth. He will make you money if he finishes eighth or better. He will lose you money at that price by finishing 10th or worse. His top 10 number is even money. So that is a very, I would say, efficient or close to it closing price for John Rahm.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very fair price, and that's kind of what we expected to see. So, the way things shake out, it's very similar to how the odds boards shake out. The top three guys are there. Adam Scott is still a little bit of the outlier, but as you scroll down that list there, it's going to look very familiar to what you're seeing if you were glancing at the boards this week. Matthew Wolff, though, is pretty far down on that list. I wasn't big on Wolff this week. I've seen some things that I really don't love in his game recently, but judging by that number that he closed at, I feel like I wish I would have. That's the one guy I wish I would have put some shares on.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like his top 30 number. Yeah, it's close. Wolff is interesting. The guys in the middle here, we didn't talk about Corey Connors. He's been kind of in a ball striking world. How about Brooks closing at $7.62? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I had some shares of Brooks that it just got a little too pricey for me based on, I was targeting him right around $7. So just missed out on him. I'm going to root for him. I obviously have the ticket on him and I want to see him play well. I think he'll be geared up for this week, but there's still some question marks there in the game that is what made me a little hesitant.
Um, Brett says he grabbed 2 shares of Wolf. He got 1 of JJ Spawn. That's pretty good. And I also saw, here's a question from Dylan. Who the hell was driving me up on Harris English? Which I think is hilarious. Okay, Joe. So we know about Xander. Who else did you end up with shares on?
Okay, so I have 26 shares of Lanto.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Don't hold on. I have an idea here.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna do So 27 shares of Lanto.
I
Right?
have 30 shares of one Alex Noren at
Okay.
$3.80. I have
Okay.
25 shares of Tom Hoagie.
Oh, you're a
And
hoagie guy,
21
aren't you?
shares. I'm a big Hoagie guy, yeah. And
Yeah, I knew
21
it.
shares of Luke List, who we talked about earlier in the show. I think that he sets up pretty well here. Obviously a volatile player, but getting in at basically like 350, 360 here. I feel like he has a lot of potential upside. So if I can get like a top 30, top 40 out of List, he'll pay that back.
So Lanto, Norin, Hoagie, List, and how many of Xander?
So it took me down a little bit on Xander. I put in for 40. I thought I had it, but when it shifted over to my holdings, I ended up with only 13 of them because I came in right on that mark where it closed at. So it had to divvy up those available shares. And it's part of the game, man. That's what happens.
Somebody in the chat, I think, got them from you. Austin
Oh, yeah.
Blasky was saying, check on your, he said, Torpix better check on Xander. I got 50 shares and I didn't think there was that many available. So I think that's where
there
your
was enough
shares
for both of us there, but good on you. You must have bid a little bit higher than me, is what I'm guessing. But yeah,
that's so
it's
good.
like coming down the stretch there was shocking to see where he was at pricing wise and relative to the field at like the 7th guy on the list. So I think there was more than just the two of us trying to hop in for some quick late Xander action there.
All right, let's play a game. I'm going to name a golfer. I'm going to give you their price, and you're going to we'll play buy or sell. So
Okay.
buy if you like the price, sell if you don't like the price. Okay.
Okay.
Jason Day at $6.01.
I like the price, actually. I think he's got some upside there. I wasn't real high on Jason Day, but this is a different scenario than taking an outright ticket or playing him in DraftKings when you have so many other things to worry about. Obviously, the upside is there, so I think that's a very, very fair number and a buyable number on Jason Day.
Here's an interesting one. Bubba Watson, $6.76, which is essentially asking him to finish. So I'll do this for you. So asking him to finish 23rd or better.
I don't love that. See, if I were presented with those two, I would rather Jason Day at the cheaper price than Bubba, just because we haven't seen him in so long. There's a lot of unknowns, and Bubba tends to be a very streaky player where he can be very bad at times, and then he can get it going and very good. Now, he has a great track record out here in California, but the same could be said about Jason Day, and getting him at, like, what was it, 70 cents less? I'd take Day there.
Jordan Spieth at $4.45, essentially asking him to finish 38th or better. Think about that. It all sounds so easy when you say, can you finish 38th or better, right?
It does sound so easy, but not to Jordan Spieth. No, I'm selling Spieth. You can't put a price that I would really take him right now, just because I think a miscut is incoming for Spieth, and I don't see anything. I want to see a sign. I like Jordan. Obviously root for him, but can't do it.
Here's my this one I love the most at the moment as I'm scrolling through these. Russell Knox.
What'd he close at?
Do you want to just take a guess? Just guess.
Russell Knox probably closed at 425.
How about $3.51?
Jeez, I missed it. I missed it on Knox. And I had Knox last week, and he paid off great for me. And love Knox in the wind, love him on the coast. And when he's in form and he seems to have really found something for his game, he can get very hot with the putter. So last week, what was his return? So he closed at $3.11 last week. So great returns on him there. Paid out at probably around $7-8 a share. So definitely feel like that's one that I missed. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what we can do. I can pull up Knox here. Whoops, that's Aaron Baddeley. That's my favorite so far. So Russell Knox and all of his tournaments. So yeah, he paid out $8 a share last week, $4.89 of profit, which he's been kind of boom or bust, but he's been better than I was going to say better than most, but
yeah, the boom has outweighed the bust
right,
there.
right, for sure. So that's my favorite one so far. Going further down the list, you want to talk about short game specialist? Mackenzie Hughes closed at $3.25. That's kind of interesting. Oh, here's one. Buy or sell Phil Mickelson at $2.75 a share.
Wow. Geez, that's interesting. I would have double take that had I seen it. But I'm out on Phil right now. Out on Phil.
Let me see if I can find another good one here. It's always crazy to scroll through. I feel
What
like
did our
someone always
guy?
gets.
What did our guy Doc close at? Because we were very high on Doc last week. I think everyone in the community was, and he let some people down. He didn't play. He made the cut barely. He squeaked through the cut, and then I think finished last of the guys who made the cut. Interested to see where he closed.
Yeah, he's here at $4.25 is where he closed, which is by far the cheapest he's ever closed at.
Right.
So that is, I would agree with you. The sentiment on him is certainly not great.
Certainly flipped, yeah, and he's $2 cheaper than we've seen him in any cash market yet. So it may have been an opportunity to sort of buy low on Doc, and that's what this is all about: buy low, sell high. Could be a spot there for Doc Redman.
All right, some real cheapos here. I'm now down in the low twos and the high ones. I'm trying to see if anybody jumps out at me.
Kyle Stanley's interesting just because he's a pretty solid iron player, and if it gets really windy, he's a pretty good ball striker. But that's the only one really I see there. I know a lot of people like Matt Neesmith. Any statistical model that you run, he's always going to pop in that a little. But those are two guys that kind of pop off the screen to me. JT Poston's pretty cheap too, and Poston's a guy we've seen play really well. Seems a little bit to be the class of that sort of pack of guys around him, I would say.
Yeah, even Kyle Stanley, just to put a bow on that, I mean, he closed at $2.06 last week, finished 32nd, which I wouldn't write home about, and more than doubled his money, right? So it's like that's really all you're asking. You're asking for these guys. And then the final page here, Nick Watney, didn't he just play well? Like, am I confusing him with Nick? Maybe I'm confusing him with Nick Taylor. I always do you have guys that you always confuse with one another, Joe?
Absolutely, yeah. Nick Watney did not play, but Nick Taylor has been on a decent little run. What about click on Chris Baker right under that? Because he's a guy that I've always kind of liked since coming up from the Korn Ferry Tour. Hasn't been playing great lately, but does have a couple solid returns in there. I remember he made a nice little run at Pebble last year, which maybe has some similarities being California kind of on the coast, but just a guy that I thought of in that range.
Andres Gonzalez Monday qualified, which is always kind of dangerous.
In the snow, right? Or something.
Yeah, right. Something weird. Yeah, which is always kind of dangerous. A guy who puts it all together, because you have to go. The Monday qualifiers now are insane, and you have to go so incredibly low. Sung Kang withdrew, I believe. So I think the way Jock Market's been doing this, and don't quote me on this, but I think they've been refunding stuff like that for like guys who WD before the tournament starts or something like that.
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this week's interesting because we are getting the two courses, Joe. So there's going to be, I think, more than most weeks, kind of an internal calculation on trying to figure out, okay, my guy went hot and ran off something big at the North course in round one. Do I think he's got the staying power, or vice versa? My guy was only 2 under at the South course, but he's licking his chops to get to the North tomorrow. Like, there's going to be that internal wrestling match, right?
Absolutely. It's going to be fun to see how it all plays out. Personally, what I'm going to look to sort of target is guys that get a little beat up and hang around like even par on that South course with the opportunity. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit more favorable on Friday where you can feel confident. Hey, if my guy can go out there on the North course and shoot 6-7 under, he's going to be in the top 20. He's going to make the cut, and let's roll onto the weekend with him. But you can maybe find some value, particularly if you look for a good, quality player. You're looking for guys that are, top 10, top 20 caliber players that are around even par, maybe 1 over at the South course on Thursday. That'll be who I'm going to have my eyes on.
There's going to be a fever pitch for a guy like I don't know if Rory starts on the South course, but like imagine if he just goes out and shreds the South course on Thursday. Oh my God, I'm going to be just like
I know.
rolling around the room, just ready for all the Rory.
I think he does. I think he's in a group with Brooks and I forget who else is in their group.
Yeah, I
maybe
just had
Matt
it up
Wolf.
like
Maybe it's a
ago.
fun group.
There's also somebody is stuck with. I gotta look this up. I think someone is stuck with Fowler and Mickelson, and I think it's Xander, and I'm worried that he's gonna like that. That just the vibes
so
are just gonna drag him down.
I know what this is. It's Fowler. It's Reed. Fowler's with Reed and somebody else.
Right,
but Reed is always an interesting one to get paired with. Like, you never know, especially with a personality like Ricky, how he's going to handle getting paired with Pat Reed. And he's kind of reminds me of Cantlay in a bit that can be frustrating sometimes to certain players to play with.
It's Ricky, Reed, and Bubba Watson. That was not the one I was thinking of.
That's an interesting group.
This is the one that I was thinking of. Mickelson, Spieth, and Xander. Hopefully they do not rub off. I mean, Xander's going to be dragging these guys around all for 2 days.
I don't love that at all for him. The poor guy. Why would they do him like that at his home course? His home tournament.
It's really tough. You're going to see a lot of going this way, a lot of going that way. Xander walking down the middle. They're not going to talk very much because I don't think they're going to be very close to one another. Joe, as usual, a lot of fun.
Ton of fun,
back again on next Wednesday, which is I was going to say the date, but I got to look it up. It is the 3rd of February, and we'll do it again. Same time, same place. If you have not signed up for Jock Market yet, you're crazy. Go use Power 20. It'll get you $20 in a deposit bonus. Make some trades this week. Tweet them at us. Let us know. Hey, it's after round 1. I got a question. Screenshot it. Fire it our way. We'll guess, right? We'll do our best to help.
Yeah, we'll take a stab at it. I appreciate all you guys for stopping by. Make sure to subscribe and like and do what you can to support the show and Rick's YouTube channel. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Peace.